For the lighting of the lamp. The dignitaries. He is felicitating with a replica of Saraswati. Thank you, sir. Now I would like to request Curator Education Dr. Shantanu kindly come on dais and propose the welcome address to the August gathering.
Good evening, everyone. Srimati Nirupama Kotru, Joint Secretary and Financial Advisor of the Ministry of Coal and Mines, Government of India. Sri PM Prasadji, CMD of Coal India Limited. Sri Vikram Ghosh, eminent musician. Sri Gautam Ghosh, eminent filmmaker and actor. Sri Shantanu Chaudhuri, Editor-in-Chief of Om Books International. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor and privilege for me to be called upon to propose the welcome address on this grand launch of the book Swinging Seventies in collaboration with Indian Museum and Om Books International, which is generously supported by the Coal India Limited. It is my immense pleasure and honor to welcome you all on behalf of the Director of Indian Museum to this event at the Indian Museum, Kolkata. Today, as we celebrate the launch of Swinging Seventies, we also celebrate the enduring spirit of creativity that defines Indian cinema. This book is a tribute to the filmmakers, actors, musicians and artists who dared to dream and push boundaries, leaving a permanent mark on the cultural landscape of India. It is a reminder that art and culture are vital to our identity, continuously shaping and reshaping who we are. We are privileged to have with us Srimati Nirupama Kotru ma'am, Joint Secretary and the Financial Advisor of the Ministry of Coal and Mines, Government of India. She has shown unparalleled dedication and tireless efforts, not only in her crucial role within the Ministry of Coal and Mines, but also in her passionate advocacy for the promotion of culture and the arts. Her visionary work has significantly contributed to the preservation and celebration of India's rich and diverse heritage. Madam, you are most welcome. we are honored to have you here and extremely thankful for all your kind support always. We extend our warm welcome to Sri PM Prasadji, CMD of Coal India Limited. Your support of this book launch is a testament to your commitment to fostering the cultural heritage and artistic individual. Thank you, sir. We have distinct pleasure to welcome Sri Vikram Ghosh, an eminent musician whose unparalleled contribution have left an unforgettable mark on Indian music. Your extraordinary ability to blend traditional Indian rhythms with contemporary sound has set new standards in the music industry, making you a true pioneer in your field. Welcome, sir. It is also an honor to have with us Sri Gautam Ghoshji, an eminent filmmaker and actor. Your distinguished career and unforgettable work have significantly shaped Indian cinema, and your films have been a source of inspiration and reflection of audiences around the world. We are grateful for your presence here today and for your continued contribution to the world of cinema. Thank you. We are delighted to welcome Sri Shantanu Roy Chaudhuri, the esteemed editor-in-chief of Om Books International. Sri Chaudhuri's profound expertise in the literary field and dedication to bringing important stories to the forefront have significantly enriched the world of publishing. Your visionary leadership and commitment to quality literature have enabled countless authors to share their voices with broader audience, and your influence has been instrumental in shaping the contemporary literature. So thank you so very much for joining us today. As we gather in the historic Indian Museum, a keystone of our cultural heritage, we are reminded of the profound role such institutions play in preserving and celebrating our rich artistic legacy. The Indian Museum is more than a repository of artifacts. It is a cultural space where history, art and culture converge to educate, inspire and connect generations. It serves as a bridge between the past and the present, fostering a deeper understanding and appreciation of our heritage. In conclusion, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to the National Film Archive of India, the National Film Development Corporation of India, Om Books International, the Indian Museum and Coal India Limited for bringing this wonderful project. To all the contributors, authors and everyone involved in the creation of Swinging Seventies, thank you for your dedication and passion. Once again, welcome to this auspicious occasion. Let us celebrate the past, cherish the present and look forward to a future rich with artistic expression and cultural vibrancy. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Now we are all excited about the book, The Swinging Seventies. So I would like to invite Sri Shantanu Roy Chaudhuri, Editor-in-Chief, Om Books International, kindly say a few words to this august gathering.
A very warm welcome to all of you. It's a matter of supreme and sweet irony that we're gathered here to celebrate a decade of cinema, for which I got slapped at home, because Bengali homes didn't allow you to watch Hindi films, and my Didima used to say, I became a fan of Amitabh Bachchan in the 1980s, and my Didima used to say, Amitabh Bachchan, ei chamratar matha khabe. Because I used to watch Shakti and Trishul and Diwar and come back all angry on my parents for no reason, so just because Amitabh Bachchan was angry. So there's supreme irony here, but then I also must acknowledge that my parents were about the first people who actually bought tickets. I remember going to a hall, I am of ancient vintage, I remember going to a hall to watch Khubsurat, to watch Kala Patthar and all those films actually my father got tickets for. He stopped with Mark. After that he said, no, that is not possible anymore to take you to films. And we shifted to Guns of Navarone. That's a different story. So it's wonderful to be here releasing this book with a lot of our contributors here. Nirupama, I'd like to thank you for facilitating, for working with me on the book. We know the fights we have had, and as any book on the 70s cinema will have, it's got to be loaded with fights and songs. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Bhattacharya, for this space and this doing us the honor here. Mr. Prasad, thank you so much. And Vikram, the first person that came to my mind when we were thinking of this book was Vikram, because I know the kind of fan he is of R.D. Varman and Kishore Kumar, the two entities without whom 70s cinema is not possible. I just had to ask him, and it says a lot about his grace and generosity that he agreed. Gautam Da, of course, I reached out soon after, and I know how tough it is to get to him, thanks to Ratnadi, thanks to Nirupama, and his grace he gave. Gautam Da is here with us, and he has worked with stars who were big in the 70s cinema and given them roles that challenged them. People like Shatrughan Sinha have worked with him in a different avatar. I'm very thankful to all my contributors here. There are 40 of us in the book, and yet I know there are a few lacking. But all of you here in Kolkata, Ratnadi, Amitabh, Aniruddha, Deepa, I meet Deepa for the first time here. And I couldn't have asked for a better introduction, a book celebrating the 70s, and I get to meet a co-contributor for the first time. Kaushik Bhomik, thank you so much, and I hope all of us here will have a wonderful evening going. Maitri, I forgot. Maitri, I keep forgetting you because I often don't believe myself that we are in the same city together. Like there's this famous Sukumar Rai story where Kecho Dada keeps shifting places. So if you think he's in Kolkata, he is not. He's in Ranaghat and he's in Tibet and all of that. Between me and Maitri is the same thing. I tell her that I'm coming to Kolkata, she says I'm in Shillong. I tell her I'm coming to Shillong, she says I'm in Bangalore. So it's a miracle of the 70s that we are in the same city together. Thank you, Maitri. Thank you all of you for contributing to the book, and thank you all of you for being here. That's all I have to say. I'm overwhelmed by the book and by all your presence here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, my humble request to Srimati Nirupama Kotru ji, Joint Secretary, Finance and Financial Advisor of Ministry of Coal and Mines, kindly say a few words about the Swinging Seventies, the co-editor of this wonderful book.
Thank you. Good evening to all the dais and the audience, ladies and gentlemen. I wear many hats. One of them is as a co-author of this book, but I'm not going to talk about the book because Shantanu will do that later when we have the panel discussion. What I wanted to say is, coming to Indian Museum in Kolkata is always an emotional homecoming for me, because I've been blessed twice in my long career. I've done more than 30 years, although you may not believe it. So the first was as Director of Films in Information and Broadcasting Ministry, where I was really lucky to be able to steer all these great institutions like NFDC, NFDI, Film and Television Institute, the archives. So that was a passion and it was a dream come true. The other was as Joint Secretary Culture, where one of my jobs was to look after the great national museums. And I want to tell you, you're really blessed to be in this location today. I want you to just have a look around. These halls were all shut for nearly 30 years. They were condemned completely. We had some conservation labs there, actually, these halls, and they were in really bad shape. So we were really lucky when, of course, I started in 2018. I came very frequently to Kolkata. Victoria Memorial and Indian Museum were two of my really favorite haunts, you can say. I loved spending time. So it was a great effort, and truly hats off to Indian Museum team. They have worked in the most adverse conditions with almost no staff. And what you see today is all done during COVID. And it's really a remarkable effort. I think they deserve a big round of applause. I'm missing my dear friend and colleague Chaudhuri ji, A.D. Chaudhuri, who is the director of Indian Museum. He's also DG, National Council of Science Museums. He's really steered this project, and Shayan has been a very great lieutenant, soldier. They've really done a remarkable job, but there's so much to do. Today when I was driving from the airport towards Indian Museum, we passed through old Kolkata, and I saw all these buildings. They are all our heritage, but obviously we don't have the money to restore everything. But as citizens, we should at least be conscious that this is our collective heritage. In whatever small way possible, I think it's for all of us to fight to keep this cultural heritage alive. So obviously those of us who are in government do make efforts, but unless people take pride in their heritage, it's just going to die. All these buildings, and with that, the soft part also, heritage is tangible and intangible, both will die. So one of the ways of keeping heritage of our popular culture, cinema, is to write about it. So archiving of films, of course, is the formal archiving. But Shantanu and I thought that, it's also important to have conversations about this decade which is long gone. And, cinema has gone through so many phases. 70s really came midway, if we think about it. So cinema had started maturing by then. And this decade was particularly exciting for us when we chose it, because you had commercial blockbusters. We talk about Hindi cinema, of course. We wish we could have taken up Bengali, Malayalam, and all the wonderful languages, but that is like a series of volumes. So we started with Hindi cinema. So you had blockbusters, you had the beginning of what we call parallel cinema with Shyam Benegal and others, and you had this middle of the road wonderful cinema which was led by stalwarts like Basu Chatterjee, Rishikesh Mukherjee, Gulzar Saab, Basu Bhattacharya. So we hope you enjoy this book, and I really couldn't think of a better venue to celebrate our cultural heritage, because cinema is also part of our heritage, and to have it in Indian Museum I thought was very apt. I'm really grateful to Indian Museum, and of course to Coal India, who have supported us. I just want to say 2 words about Coal India. I now have an emotional connect with Coal India. My Coal India family is here. Thank you all for coming. And if you notice in the exhibition, we did put up Kala Pathar, because it was really the first time that a big director like Yash Chopra took up a story about a mining disaster of Chasnala and gave it such prominence, and Salim Javed that wrote the screenplay. I thought it was brilliant, because otherwise nobody would know about the kind of work our coal miners do. We really must respect them, the way they go deep into the earth and dig out this black gold. We are dependent on coal, whether we like it or not. We will be for a few years. So at least let us respect these miners, these workers who really toil for us in the depth of earth at those high temperatures. I wanted to put that up, which is why I told Prasad Saab that we must put something about safety and what Coal India is doing, because believe me, we have an excellent team. We've never had such a sympathetic person heading Coal India as Prasad Saab. He's really a good leader, and the whole team is very sensitive, and they're trying their best to bring clean technology, to diversify into renewable energy and everything possible. So believe me, you could not have a better team either in museums like Indian Museum or Coal India. So we are really blessed. I wanted to celebrate all these great institutions today, which is why I'm really grateful this shaped up. Thank you to all our contributors for coming. Thank you to all of you for making time on this evening. I'm so grateful, and I'm really happy today. Thank you so much. Namaskar.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would like to invite Sri P.M. Prasad, C&D Coal India Limited, kindly say a few words to this august gathering.
Good evening. Today's chief guest, Sri Bekam Goji, eminent musician. Chief guest, Sri Gautam Gosha, famous filmmaker and actor. Sri Shantanu Chaudhuri, editor-in-chief, Home Books International. Madam Nirupama Kotru, our joint secretary, and she was earlier, she served 3 years in culture, Ministry of Culture as joint secretary also. And the curator shop staging along with us on the dais, and the actors and actresses present at that time, great actress Madam Munmun Sen, Sri Triplani ji, who are present, and any others present, I don't know all of the names, but still the book launch was chosen in a great city, city of joy, city of culture, city of noble laureates, city of greatest directors ever present, ever produced from our country. India is known for software right now, but the soft power industry, the soft culture, the Hindi film industry or others, so southern side industry, the film industry, the soft power, soft culture, it is the greatest of all the times. Now the films winning at Oscar level also, like Bahubali, and the musicians cracking at Oscars in the last 5-10 years. Much before also, Gautam Gosha and team could have won it, and there is a lot of culture, abundant talent is present, and they have produced. At the gallery which we have seen, 70s, you must appreciate one thing. The last 15 years, you are booking the ticket from house in INOX. The audience, youngsters, say at the age of 20, 25, they don't know the pain of watching movie. During our time, for getting a ticket, these are all the filmmakers, musicians and all. From a struggling, you go to a small window, you don't know whether the hand will come or not outside. Before exams, it may get fracture also. And at that time, we don't take the permission. We don't tell the mothers, parents, and we go by not doing that. Now the youngsters, they announce, I am going to so and so. With the freedom and INOX click, so things are changing. So you must appreciate that time of the audience. And colleagues from Coal India and Coal India family members and all the audience, respected audience present, it's a great honor to come and participate, and the films and the personalities, heroes of our time, all the, you see, Amitabh Bachchan, Rajesh Khanna, one person is already established actor and others are struggling, and Bobby at our time, and all the Kala Patthar, especially. After Kala Patthar, now the Mission Raniganj has come. Again, this is also a disaster theme. Recently, Akshay Kumar and the directors, they also done a lot. So I must thank Nirupama Madam in inviting us, and see the real that 70s to 80s, these 10 years, the greatest films ever produced. Thank you, and we, Coal India will always, whenever for any culture promoting programs, whenever you call, our company will be there, and it is the capital at Coal India. So even otherwise also, anything, just I was discussing, we will come on another day, any development of this museum or any sort. In Bhopal also some art and literature we are promoting in other cities. So anytime if you remember us, we are there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have two eminent chief guests with us. So first, I would like to call the eminent musician who doesn't need any introduction, Sri Bikram Ghosh, kindly address the august gathering.
Good evening, everybody. Shantanu mentioned that I'm a fan of R.D. Burman and Kishore Kumar, but I have to underline exactly how big a fan I am. So, this is circa 1993-94. I have just had the biggest opportunity in my life and my career. I have started playing tabla for Pandit Ravi Shankar. And it was an unbelievable break. I mean, everybody's dream. So, on our first tour, first concert, we are going in a tour bus to the venue. And I'm sitting next to the driver, and Pandit Ravi Shankar is behind the driver. And those days we used to have Walkmans. So I had a Walkman. And we're going, and I'm going to probably one of the biggest concerts in my life at that time. I'm listening to Kishore Kumar and R.D. Burman on my Walkman. So Raviji says, in Bangla, he says, Kishore Cho. So I didn't think much about it. I said, Kishore Kumar, R.D. Burman and Ganshaj. So he says, what? You're going to play with me? You're going to play with Ravi Shankar. Do you even realize where you're going? Do you realize what you're going to do? You're not listening to my music, no homework, nothing. You're listening to Kishore Kumar, R.D. Burman. So I was very apologetic. I quickly said, no, Kama Korodin, please. Next day, we're off again to another concert. I have my Walkman on. So he says, Kishore Cho. So I said, your music with Ustad Allah Khasan. Acha, let me hear. He didn't believe me. So he listened. And yes, it was him and Allah Khasan. Third concert, I'm again with my Walkman. He doesn't ask anymore. So I'm back to Kishore Kumar and R.D. Burman. So that's how big a fan. I still start my day with Kishore Da. The 70s was an unbelievable period. I think it was a renaissance of sorts. Just look at the incredible work, the diversity of the work. While there is an R.D. Burman making incredible music, or a Lakshmikant Pyarelal, or a Kalyanji Anandji, or a Madan Mohan, on the other hand, in the classical field, there's a Ravi Shankar, there is Ali Akbar Khan, there is Bhimshen Joshi, and such incredible artists. Zakir Hussain is coming up. So this was an incredible era. I grew up in the 70s. Shantanu grew up in the 80s. So I know the 70s. And Tony grew up in the 70s. That's when we were growing up. And what a period of time. What tremendous work happening, and I think we really captured it beautifully in the book. The contrasts, that there is a Manthan happening and there is an Amar Akbar Anthony also happening. So it is just incredible what was going on there. And not to forget the top collars and the bell-bottom pants. I couldn't find a shirt, but I found something which is a bit 70s, so I wore it. I had a pair of velvet suede pants, which my wife promptly threw out. It had 24-inch bell bottoms. I had kept it from the 70s. But yeah, it's a fantastic subject. Congratulations on this book, and thank you for having me here. Namaskar.
Graduate. Do you know that Graduate actually had a Hindi version?
I think there was
it is
part
there in my
since you've got
Kishore Kumar book.
Okay, but since both of you mentioned Bobby, Arna Irani did a Mrs. Robinson in Bollywood, remember?
Graduate.
To anybody who's saying that 70s is being idolized or given more importance than it should, let me just tell you, I was growing up in the 70s and we went in with my friends, a bunch of young people, we went in to see a film called Albela. And very soon, for no reason whatsoever, we decent Elphinstone College kids, we were dancing the aisles when this guy is singing Bhagwan. And he's singing O Gore Gore O Baake Chhore. So I don't think we can ever say this is over romanticizing, this is over celebrating. There will always be films that will strike a chord. There will always be films that will be thrown away in the dustbin.
We had somebody.
On a lighter note, Shantanu, on a lighter note, for every dimple Kapadia miniskirt, you also had a Dharmender miniskirt.
Yeah. Dharmender miniskirt, of course. Not like Dharamveer. Please.
See, my question is to any of the panelists. In 1972, Godfather comes out in the West. Godfather, Francis Ford Coppola. Then 75, you have Sholay here. In 79, then again Apocalypse Now comes out. So I just want to ask that what is the influence of the West that spills over in the 70s here? Because RT is listening to Grateful Dead. There's a lot of influence that is happening. So do you think it's a spillover of Woodstock and all that had happened that we see in the 70s here as well?
How much did Hollywood influence 70s?
I think it was completely there. I think in the 70s, Hollywood was a very big reference point, and directly so. But it was not influence. It was actually a very interesting, just taking over certain tricks, making them into one's own. It was more than influence. It was actually working very actively with Hollywood films, taking scenes and things like that. But Feroz Khan was always very much. He was one of the most like westernized directors of Bombay cinema at that point in time.
Even if our Indian directors were influenced by the Hollywood, they did not simply copy it like we do it now. They made it through the Indian point of view or through the Indian aesthetics.
See, you said Hollywood, right? Let me tell you a story which I found out while writing the RD book. Okay, there was somebody called Sapan Chakraborty. Shantanu knows about him. So, for them. So, Sapan Chakraborty's main activity was to go to Churchgate or VT and buy James Hadley Chase novels and supply the same to this K. Narayan, Sachin Bhomik. ये लीजिए आपका next script. So that was normal.
One final question, if there's somebody, or else we wrap this up. Yeah.
Not a question, but I just wanted to point out, and especially to people like Kaushik here, films like Naya Nasha, which was also part of that psychedelia. A film called Naya Nasha, which is also
Ranjit Mollik
and Nanda, made in the mainstream, and a lot of mores in that film, you know. So I think, and also I think Kurosawa's Ayando got made in that, you know, shoe factory film. Not Achan.
Inca.
Yeah. Of course, without rights, but like Rajan.
High and low.
Yeah, one more question and then there was somebody here.
Hi. It's a very general question of 70s. We talk about a lot of things. We forget one character who's also been a part of, changing the way we look at Indian films of 70s. Was Joginder. How many of you have seen Bindu Bindu picture, to show them?
He just passed away.
That's a film. I think Joginder people forget.
Joginder is I saw Rangapush.
Rangapush was much better. But then you have watching of those chattanes, you have teen Ekke. So you have to see Joginder. None of the films or books mention Joginder. I don't know why. For what? Then Narendra Bedi was another very important director during our process of growing up in the 70s. In fact, I think some of you may be older than me, some of you most of you must be younger than me. When I grew up in the 70s, I'm a 60 product. My growing up is 70s. When I saw Sachcha Jhutta with Rajesh Khanna, Sachcha Jhutta was my favorite film till date. But no books mention Sachcha Jhutta, only Rajesh Khanna, after going Sachcha picture you guys want to do. It's a scene of film, the dog, who can imagine a dog, going to the court and say, this is my money. A classic example. See, these are 70s, kitsch, these are 70s classics.
Absolutely.
But we only mention, we have a show, everyone knows, we talk about films which no one knows, and those have shaped the Indian film industry. That is the film that we have grown up. I am no Mr. Joginder film, till date I am not Mr. Joginder film. Someone said about Yadav Ki Barat, I think that's the best commercial film I have seen in the 70s. And nothing because...
Can I just let me just quickly. Look, take Amitabh Bachchan now, the nostalgia for the 70s goes, and there are at least 100, 150 great films that people haven't watched necessarily, as you mentioned. So the 70s is still to be discovered.
To me, it was more of Rajesh Khanna than of Amitabh Bachchan. To me, it was more of Navin Nishchal watching. When I watched Wo Maine, I said, what a fantastic film. How the people have not watched Wo Maine? It's a good thriller of Mohan Sehgal. So there are a lot of films, there are a lot of these small films which
Absolutely. You see, one of the things, and on that note, we are planning a reprint of the book. You need to buy the book so that you can go into the reprint. And one of the things we discussed was, it is such an impossible decade to encapsulate even in 600 pages. We got Lakshmikant parallel at the last moment. After the book came out, I told Nirupama, oh my God, we have missed Banraj Bhatia. We have missed an essay on the posters of the decade, the film posters of the decade. So, it is not possible. Joginder and that Kishi era probably requires an essay. We have been talking
just
about
it. We have missed a very good music director called Ganesh.
Yes.
Ganesh was one of the most brilliant music directors. All the Kiran Kumar films, Raja Kaka and all Ganesh, such lovely
the decade, that's the reason for the book. And in fact, Nirupama had a lot of doubts. यार ये तो बहुत बड़ा हो रहा है 600 पेज का किताब कौन खरीदेगा क्या कैसे होगा कितना it's a door stopper, it's not a book, it's a door stopper, so and I'm still telling you there are 10,000 words to be written on so many other aspects. Please buy the book. Even if you have bought the book on Amazon, buy the book here so that we can go into a reprint soon and we'll have all those essays in. I missed an essay on the cinematographers of the era. K.K. Mahajan, you mentioned. I don't have an essay on K.K. Mahajan because I really didn't get anybody competent enough to do that. I think that's a sadness of writing on cinema in this country. We didn't get somebody to write on K.K. Mahajan. But now we have, somebody is writing on K.K. Mahajan, somebody is writing on the posters, somebody is writing on Banraj Bhatia. And I
missed out on the Ramsay brothers, who started in the 70s.
Yes, they started in the 70s, but yes, of course, we have a...
Do Gaz Zami Ke Niche was actually a landmark film because no one had made anything, a zombie film in those days.
Yeah. On that note, thank you, all of you. Thank you, Nirupama. Yeah, and if you want your copies signed by any of the contributors, they are willing to do that. Thank you, all of you. Deepa, thank you for making all the journey all the way. Maitri, Ratnadi, thank you. Amitabh, Kaushik and Aniruddha, thank you so much. Please join us for high tea. Though it's not mandatory, but I would like to link the high tea to the sale of the book. A copy of the book will make the high tea available. So, if you could just specify who you want the question to be answered by. Nirupama, if you just come here.
Hello, thank you very much for this wonderful evening. It's been really enriching for fans like me of the 70s. I just had a small thing to say. Someone said that maybe we are over-romanticizing the 70s. Was everything good about it? I think if you look around here, we all belong to that era. So for us, it is a very special and different feeling which a 90s kid cannot understand. The way they will think about 90s, we will not be able to understand. They look at some of the 70s films and say, what tacky sets, red sofa, green carpet, orange curtains. But they have a charm for us which is very difficult to rationalize. You know, I mean, art is so subjective. You know, what I like, someone else may not like. But there is one common thing in most of the 70s that we celebrate, and that is the content has to be good. For every Garam Hava, there is an Amar Akbar Anthony. Amar Akbar Anthony, when I speak about it, a lot of people get scandalized. I say it is the Citizen Kane of masala movies. It is how a masala movie should be made. Garam Hava is totally contrasting. But individually they are all good cinema. They are good cinema which appeal to us. There is a lot of trashy things in the 70s which even we do not like. But we belong to a certain age. You will not find too many 20-year-olds crazy about the 70s. It's us and our generation who have grown up. And it's that irrationality of art. I really cannot pinpoint why I enjoy Garam Hava as much as I enjoy Amar Akbar Anthony. It just strikes a chord, it touches a chord with me. You know, there was this question of female sexuality which was being discussed in movies like Chetna, Dastak were discussed. There was one more movie which was perhaps not very qualitatively high, but there was a movie called Havas, which actually spoke of lymphomania, which, you know, has never been spoken about. I don't think even now it's been spoken about that much.
I'm going to add to what you said, can I?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks for saying this. Recently I had spoken to Sansad TV and Doordarshan. And the first thing I said is people really underestimate the importance of entertainment in our lives. And this is something when Vishal Bhardwaj was talking to me, he is interviewed in the book. He said, in 70s we didn't think about whether it was parallel cinema or, Sholay. We just watched films. We were crazy about films. There was nothing else. There was no other avenue of entertainment for us, right? So all of us here, you are very right. We are all Gen Xers who have written this book. And we have written it for the next generation because they will never understand the emotional connect we had with films. And like Mr. Prasad was saying, putting your hand in that counter, thankfully girls didn't do that, but boys did, and they got beaten up, then the hands were scratched also. If you remember all the fighting for tickets, advance booking, house.
Used to go on Monday mornings because that's when plans would open.
What is this houseful business?
I was always there.
Now, right? The board would come up and was so disappointed to be waiting for 1 hour in the line, houseful, and then the black guy comes features a Ekta chart. All of us watch films in black. New generation wouldn't understand this. I remember Trishul, for 25 rupees ticket we had to buy for 100 rupees. You wanted to watch Amitabh Bachchan, you didn't think twice about spending that money. And the other thing you said about women, this is something also I mentioned, because we were talking about fetishizing and are we celebrating mediocrity. What Deepa said is so right, even the mediocre
questions to any of the panelists, to my co-editor Nirupama. Okay, thank you so much. If we can have
to the crowd, I have wanna watch it. Abhi? Nahin, acha. Sorry.
And while he is organizing that, I'll just a little bit of history. Keep on, get that. Little bit of history, what had happened, how 70s became possible. 1966, Film Finance Corporation starts financing directors. 1960, yes, they changed nomenclature. 1966, FTI has a bunch of students that includes Manikol, Kumar Shani, AKB, Vikas Desai, and so on.
K.K. Mahajan.
All of them. 1966, Bimal Roy dies. I'm here going back into history through my window, my father, Ravindra Ghosh. Bimal Roy dies, he starts teaching at FTI. By 70s, there is a batch of students out there making films like Uski Roti, Ashar Ka Ek Din, Maya Darpan, which people are saying, this is French cinema को copy कर रहे हैं, nouvelle बात, new wave, ये सब क्या? Who watches? I mean, amongst my friends in the film fraternity, people making fun of these films. 10 मिनट बाद आप बीड़ी पी के आ जाओ तब भी वही सीन चल रहा है, and so on. You know, that's the norm. दूध गिर गया, camera follows, दूध क्यों जा रहा है? Those kind of things. Anyway, what was important at this point is people coming out of FTI, students of my father. I have been growing up with them. They have been coming out and they have been submitting scripts to NFDC. And there is this old man who has written for all these donkey's years for people like Vimal Roy and Guru Dutt and all. He's in the script committee. He's heading the committee and people are saying, ये सब क्या script? इसको क्यों पैसे देना है? And this old man says, okay, look, in every form of art, after every decade, as you enter a new decade, there has to be a change in the way you look at things, in the window. It is the grammar that has to change. If there was no Ulysses, we would not be able to evaluate a Shakespeare or an Emily Bronte. So this is what was the important thing. They were changing the grammar, and being at FTI and at NFDC, he knew what Girish Kasarwalli or Ketan Mehta or all these people were, Kundan Shah, they were coming.
That's a very important thing. On that note, if I could get Amitabh in, one of the change of grammar that happened is what you write about the emergence of Amol Parekh. So, could you sort of encapsulate the world of the masculine world? We're talking about the feminine world here. The masculine world of the Amitabh Bachchans and the Dharmendras vis-a-vis Amol Parekh, and how 70s afforded that opportunity also.
I think the 70s.
And did you actually watch all of these? Bangalider Badite to Hindi cinema dekhano mane was used to be. So
I didn't have a TV till late teens, so there was very less opportunity to watch films on television. Like in those times, we had this Saturday evening Bangla film and Sunday evening Hindi film. So we were not allowed any of those two films. Absolutely, both my parents were professors in university, so there was no chance of going to the cinema halls. So even Amitabh Bachchan's happened much later in the day for me. So I was very marginal in that sense. I think Ratnattamadi, what she was trying to make is that there is an evolution and there are things which happen which culminate into something. I don't necessarily agree that 70s is the most exciting decade of Hindi cinema, but if we accept that every decade is exciting in its own way, 70s had something, and we were discussing a lot of things. The change in the politics of India had an important role in how we are looking at cinema, how the actors, the stars are changing. So the emergence of the angry young man started with the angry image, was the norm of the day. So it had to happen because everything else is burning. We in Kolkata understood that a lot in the late 60s and the 70s, and I think some of it was reflected in the commercial cinema as well. In this context, Amol Palekar and that brand of cinema is very important because it could have happened in the 60s, it could have happened in the 80s. It was somewhat without any sort of lineage with respect to the changing times. It's for the first time we are looking at an actor as a star or as a hero who doesn't look like a hero. He is the Maratha, the Maharashtrian in Hindi cinema, the hero for the first time. You look at the Kapoors, you look at the Khannas, everyone has this North Indian, they are broad figures, they are sharp features. this is the
कौन सी
first.
चक्की का बना आटा खाते हैं?
But let's not forget our Shantanu.
Yes, Shantanam was one, but Shantanam happened, I think, till the 50s or early 60s at the most. But for a long time, if you look at again, taking from your thing, the division of the state into Gujarat and Maharashtra, and there is an identity, a Maharashtrian identity in the Hindi cinema. I think that is what Amol Palekar sort of represented. And I think in this part of the country, where we are little slow and little low, Amol Palekar is more Bengali than a Marathi. Amol Palekar's films were, I think, appreciated most in this part of the country apart from the others. So I think he gave the chance to people like me who are very middle, who are very mediocre, that there is someone who is there. The likes of Om Puri and Nasiruddin happened afterwards. But this concept, this thing of Amol Palekar, I think there is nothing which happened before, nothing which happened after.
You wanted a fight.
If you watch
So
his
here's
films,
the
he was
Bengali-
very Bengali-like. You know, when I remember, Chotu Takte, you know, when I saw his films, the first thing was, oh, he's a Bengali only, you know. I never really thought he's anything else but a Bengali. I mean,
Kotru, yeah.
Yeah. No, he wanted a fight. So I was just saying he's a Bengali who says that Amol Palekar best appreciated in Bengal, the best in Bengal. And I, having grown up all my life and having watched plays at Chavindas and all that, including Amol and all of them, I would say that Amol is the quintessential culture boy who became the face of the urban youth, whether it was Bombay, Kolkata or Delhi.
You're saying something.
Uttamadi, I believe you mentioned Uski Roti, right? I'm sure Shantanu knows this. Okay. The famous Manmohan Desai quote.
Yeah, yeah.
मेरी रोटी तो किसी ने तो देखी, उसकी रोटी किसी ने नहीं देखी.
Yes, मेरी रोटी सबने देखी, उसकी रोटी किसने? You know, like Kaushik, I'd like at this point to bring you in because Amitabh brought in the question of the politics of the era impacting, I think, for the first time after the 50s. Of course, the 50s also had the political influence of an independent nation, but you also explore that, but in a very different manner through the background music of the era and particularly the background music of R.D. Burman. Could you sort of elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, who am I to speak on R.D.? This man on the right. No, what I found interesting in all the discussions about R.D.'s music is the dialogue between his music, especially his background score, or the songs for, say, a film like Yadon Ki Baaraat, with the new kind of black funk music that was coming out because in America, you know, Isaac Hayes and people like that. And he was obviously listening to that stuff, and he was listening to people like Miles Davis as well. So I wanted to kind of see films like Yadon Ki Baaraat. I'm greatly fond of those films, of the masala films of the 70s. I like the color, the excess, mad camera angles, swoops. I mean, they're as avant-garde as, you know, I mean, I still feel that it's the greatest populist cinema ever produced in the history of cinema. It really does cinema very well. It's urban. It's very, very energetic. So what I found interesting was that because a lot of blaxploitation films with working class black men were being shown in India, and how that kind of look of sweaty working men, women was coinciding with what was happening in some of the R.D. films and the connection with the music. So I kind of started kind of seeing this similarity in the music, but also the movies, but also the ideology of sorts, like a working class, sweaty, grimy, urban person who was driven to frustration, new angry young man, and the violence of it all. So I found that very interesting. The second thing that I kind of found very interesting is like even till date, we always see the black funk music connected to a very provocative female sexuality like Beyonce, and that's a long tradition. Black women celebrate the sexuality through music and being very upfront with these frontal camera kind of shots. And I think a lot of that was happening in the films that R.D. was giving music to. Say for example, Lekar Hum for example. I think there's a direct connection in the kind of aesthetics between black culture in America at that point in time and R.D.'s music and certain films like Yado Ki Barat.
You talk about the music, the background music and the song picturization in Yado Ki Barat. If you could sort of give that as a context, because I think a lot of us will recognize Yado Ki Barat as...
And other films as well. The chase sequences, the way he kind of uses percussions. And then R.D.'s interest in some kind of weird ghostly music, which I call tantric music in some sense. That there's some connection that he, with great fun, uses these very weird sounds and things like that, which are all connected to Indian working class cultural music. So I found that bit of R.D.'s playfulness with violence, murder, death, and an exciting life in the city, where you're always close to death. There's speed, death, clash. That I found.
He could visualize
it very well, and he could use musical cues like percussion and horns to actually make the person feel, the spectator feel, how dangerous the world is out there. And that I found that had a lot in common with the black cinema that was happening in America at that point in time. So then it becomes a certain kind of a political dialogue. But also I felt that he was in his own way commenting on the general angry young man in India. And that could include a Naxal, and that could include Amitabh Bachchan. It could include anyone. I think what Hindi cinema at that point was good about, it was saying that times are really kind of out of control, and men especially are angry for some reason. So I don't make that much of a distinction between a Naxal or an urban. It was the times in some sense. And R.D. I think his music fits into that spectrum somewhere. Whereas we have the serious cinema at one end about Naxalbari and things like that. But I think they were angry young men in the same way, for the same reasons, for urban, dysfunction, lack of jobs, and all of that. Where the Naxal and this guy was not so much completely different. In fact, they were part of the same spectrum, I would say.
I think we are also in a rush to sort of wrap up, and because we started a bit late, and but before we open the floor for some questions, given the wide range we have here, one question for each one of you as closing statement. Number one, what is it about the 70s that stands out for you? And number two, based on something that Amitabh posed on a Facebook post, are we in the danger of fetishizing or saying that everything that came out in the 70s is worth celebrating? So if we could start with you, Deepa, and end with Aniruddha, each one of you, what's it about the 70s that stands out for you? And do you think that we are kind of celebrating even the mediocre stuff when we are celebrating 70s?
I would say 70s mediocre stuff is much more better than what movies we are watching right now. So that should be the answer. But what appeals to me from the 70s was the music, and frankly I write mostly about the music. All my articles are music based. So music is the one thing which appeals to me always from the 70s.
What has changed about the way music? Like a lot of us actually say that music has become more realistic in the way it is portrayed on cinema. It's become more Western. We have soundtracks. We don't have so much of lip syncing, like people with a 40-piece orchestra singing a song. So how do you see that development?
Right now the music is, it is not about music in aesthetic sense. It has become more robotic. Like the playback singers have got auto tunes, and the music pieces they do the music pieces separately. So there is no soul into the songs at all. There are no lyrics. There is no meaning for the lyrics. So that is absolutely soulless.
Your take on what in your view stands out, and are we celebrating too much of a decade that is pitfalls also?
I don't think there's any such thing as celebrating too much, because when it comes to a matter of experimentation, of looking at things differently, the 70s did have a lot of experimentation, though I would agree with Amitabh when he says that it actually started off in the 60s or 50s. And the 70s, I think, were just sort of carrying it forward. But what I do like about the 70s, and something that I've written about in context to whether it's women or sexuality or desire, is that feminism it was the status of women. They were people, I think, who understood how to celebrate their bodies without trying to intellectualize it too much. Today if somebody wears something sort of scandalous, it's looked at, sort of. What I really want to say is that a good deed would exist along with a zinataman, and both would have equal face value and brand value. Which I think has to a certain extent deteriorated today. Also, I think what I really miss is the fact that a lot of good books were turned into scripts, and a lot of good stories from books, whether it's in Bangla or in Hindi or in most other languages also, were actually turned into films, which is something I really miss.
I noticed a whole lot of things happening in the 70s. Right at the beginning is the Bangladesh war happening, and Bangladesh coming into existence. The war, Indo-Pakistan war and Bangladesh coming into existence. What it does to India instills a lot of confidence. And then you spoke about feminism. 1975 was the first time India International Women's Day is celebrated. What it does is the change in looking at women. They are not just mere housewives. They are not just mere dancing bodies. A dancing figure is no longer just a fallen woman. Men start dancing. It is not just a Gopi Krishna. It's a Chintu, it's a Rishi Kapoor, it's a Me-Too. They start dancing, and it is not a taboo. Then television comes in, and a whole lot of way of looking at cinema changes, because a whole lot of new things happen. An actor is not just a remote figure. He's there. He's talking to us. Ashok Kumar is every man's Dadaji talking in Hamko, and so on, a whole lot. And as I mentioned earlier, a new way of making cinema is accepted. It is given support. It is taken to a whole new segment of viewers across the world. International festivals have become already things that have come to stay. And this is one decade, I go back to the ladies, this is one decade when Mumtaz and Rehana Sultan, Moon Sen and Suchitra Sen, they are all there and acting and with their own individual identities and image intact, even as the new ladies, Zinat Aman and Praveen Babu, Jaya Bachchan, she scales down as Jaya Bachchan, but Shabana and Smita come to me. Sorry.
I just want to rephrase what Shantanu said what I supposedly posted on Facebook. I didn't say this 1970s is something which we are celebrating too much. I wanted to make sure whether we are celebrating anything which is archival, like it can be 50s, it can be any film. So there is a trend. Whatever is old is actually, there was a lot into it in which we may have missed it at that time. So that is the caveat. But for me, 1970s is important because 1970s Hindi cinema is important because 1970s Hindi cinema gives me the same sort of relatability which 1960s Bengali cinema gives. So there are a lot, I think the spectrum was wider and it was more rich than the 60s. So I have my own fan moments with the Shami Kapoors and stuff, but I think in terms of the relatability, 70s Hindi cinema is the first time when some of it I can still relate to. Previously it was like, okay, Hindi cinema is something which is completely unrelatable. So that's, I think, for me that's the main thing. And a lot of it is contributed by the impact or the influence of politics and how it comes not only in the films of the others, but also the mainstream cinema. In very, very small ways as well, there has been a reflection. Say, for example, we were talking about Amol Palek's films. The politics may not be at the national level, but a couple of people going to find a room or find a place to stay, there is also politics about that. So these are the problems which I have seen around me. So that is for the first time coming, to me that's the first time coming into the realm of Hindi cinema or the mainstream cinema in the 70s.
Well, I just mentioned that I'm a great fan of the aesthetics and the music of that cinema. Truly. I mean, I think Yadovi Bharat is like the best masala film. I mean, if I was asked that if there is one masala film to talk about, there would be for me. It has everything. It's remarkable. But one of the things that I do feel, amongst many other things that I think about cinemas, is that just look at the box office spectrum between 1971 and 77, 76, until Bachchan really takes off. I mean, the kind of films that are big hits across India in Hindi cinema is remarkable. Look at 1975 with Vivad, then there's Jai Santoshima, of course, everyone talks about, but there's also Chupke, and there is Khel Khel Mein as well. And the next year, the biggest hit is a film like Nagin. So you have Sholay one year and then the next year the biggest hit is Nagin. So you can see the kind of range that is coming in. And one cannot but remember, I do belong to the time when I went to the cinemas and saw those films in the cinema halls. It is the period of great mass cinema of India. It is when the 1,000-seaters are being made and it is really, the crowds are just crowding in. It's truly India watching cinema for the first time under the same roof. Class barriers are broken down. Scripts are being written so that the middle class and the working class can watch films together at that point in time. And film like Sholay. Now those are remarkable things. They could be read politically, they could be read sociologically. But it is the first time and the last time that all of India across classes watch films together. 80s again, it's polarized. The 70s is that great moment. A film like Bobby, one can't even imagine how historically important a film it is. For religion, the way in which Muslims went and watched it, Hindus went and watched it, the youth watched it, the middle class watched it. One can't imagine how important the film Bobby is. I think it is the most important film of the 1970s in a certain way beyond Sholay or anything of that kind, because of the impact it had on the Janta as a whole. You know, Sholay was still, I think, very masculine, very a certain time, but Bobby was something that was like a dream. So we can just go on, which answers the second question you asked. I don't think we can fetishize it enough. I think there is still so much to be written about the 70s, the dacoit films. I mean, I think Swinging Sixties is a very important figure of the 1970s. I mean, it is a very, very marginal figure, but that is his glory days in some senses as a superstar, you know. So, I don't think we do fetishize it. At the end of the day, there are only a few classics we talk about. The rest of it, many people will find it very difficult to go through because of the violence and the excess. People will find it, unless one has a sense of zaniness and enjoying the madness of it. I think the 70s cinema is not easy to fetishize beyond the point.
Thank you, Bo, so much for mentioning Raj Kapoor's Bobby, because I was going to speak about it exactly. Well, 70s for me, like I grew up in the 70s, okay? And 70s for me is mostly about memories. And Raj Kapoor's film, like which he mentioned, Bobby was my first recollection of souvenirs. I saw Bobby sunglasses. I saw Bobby miniskirts. I saw my wife says, "Echono Bobby printed na ki shadi." পাওয়া যায় আমি শাড়ি কিছু জানি না তাই বলতে পারছি না but my strongest souvenir memory of a souvenir are Rakhis. We also had Bobby Rakhis, and incidentally a girl had tied a Bobby Rakhi on my hand. I was too young to understand the implication then. Then I realized everything is fair in love and war. No, we were never engaged. And I first fell in love with a girl that was Ranjita. In a Kyoke Charoko se. And incidentally, I was 15, it was in 1979 March. I could speak to her after 45 years. And I mentioned this, "Ma'am, you are my first crush," and we kept on laughing. So that is 70s for me, lots and lots of memories.
Yeah, on that note, that's just lots and lots of memories, and this is what the book also addresses. If we have any questions, I think we'll have...
The chief guest, our eminent filmmaker and actor, Sri Gautam Ghosh, kindly address this august gathering.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed a pleasure for me to attend this exhibition organized by NFI and NFDC and launching of this wonderful book. I'm really happy, and this fantastic ambience of the Indian Museum. Look at the building. I think they were a better architect than us. Incredible, and really. I've gone through the book. You know, it's very interesting that they've written the Swinging 70s of Hindi cinema. It was called Hindi cinema, not Bollywood. I wonder why we started calling Bollywood. There is no wood in Bombay. Beverly Hills has a wood, full of woods. That's why they call it Hollywood. But why Bollywood? No wood. Tollywood, there is no wood in Tollygunj. Anyway, it's just a copy. However, it's a very interesting book, a very interesting anthology of articles on the 70s, and I know there are Shantanu and Nirupama, they have contributed in some of the articles, and there are many, I think, who are present here as contribution in this book. It's quite interesting and comprehensive. I really didn't have time to read all the articles. I like the article of Shantanu on Gulzar. It's very comprehensive. And Nirupama's candid interview of Mohan Agashi. I think Mohan was shooting a film during that interview. So I think you go through the book. It's, I think, it's a very interesting documentation of the 70s. Well, for me, 70s was my youth. I lost interest about the mainstream Hindi cinema after Ganga Jamuna, because I was a fan of Dilip Kumar and Raj Kapoor. And then I started reading cinema, understanding cinema. So I really didn't see much of the 70s film, except few, of course. Bhuvan Shroff, of course, Manish Uski Roti, Mayadarpan, Kumar Sahni's Mayadarpan, wonderful films of Shyam Benegal. And I think those are all, Shyam's Ankur was in 74. And then, I of course I'd seen some mainstream film, but I was not so really a great fan of mainstream Hindi cinema. Because in those days we were excited by the European cinema, Italian film, French film, Latin American films. But of course, I'm sure that Hindi cinema had a great impact on our audience. So that should be, documented. And we have done so, it's very important. And as Vikram said, it was a great music, great musicians, great composers, S.D. Burban, Madan Mohan, then Naushadji was still there. So incredible. Hindi cinema songs are fantastic. And I'm sure that we will do more anthology on Malayalam cinema, on Bengali cinema, and so and so. It's a very good idea of creating this kind of anthology. Thank you very much for sending the book. I'll go through it. And congratulations that we have opened the book in Kolkata, I think first time, or it was already launched. It was launched first time here? Yeah? Oh, congratulations. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to request all the dignitaries kindly please launch the book finally.
We have some of our contributors here. I request them to please join us. Ratna Ji, Amita Nag, Kaushik Bhaumik, Aniruddha, Deepa Bhuti, please come up. And Ma'am Manmohan Sen, ma'am, please join us. Jayant Ripkani sir, we would also
We have book launches is, and the condition I impose is that nobody leaves the room without a copy of the book, without the receipt being strewn at the gates. So that's please bear in mind that.
Neither a cause nor a